As the fifth largest country in the world and one of the 10 largest economies, Brazil stands out by far on the map of South America. Being the only one of the world's major countries with a large vertical geography, which provides wide climatic and geological diversity, this has resulted in a geography with enormous difficulties, while at the same time offering huge advantages. In today's video, we will look at the geopolitics of Brazil. But before that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. With your support, I'll be able to keep bringing you diverse content about geopolitics, international security, espionage, organized crime, and more. But it's your support that keeps this channel going. My name is Deleon Peter, and this is World Geopolitics. Brazil is located in South America, being the largest country in the region and sharing borders with almost every South American country except for Ecuador and Chile. It also faces the southern Atlantic Ocean. Its geographical structure is divided into three main bases. The first, the Amazonian base, in the north and northwest of the country. The second, the tropical savanna. The third, the Brazilian plateau, extends along most of the country's coastline. The Amazonian base is consolidated thanks to the Amazon River, the largest river in volume on the planet, stretching from the Andes Mountains to the Atlantic Ocean. Encompassing practically the entire north of the country, the confluence of known geological and climatic factors, this river and other local rivers in the region gave rise to the largest forest in the world, the Amazon rainforest, most of which is within Brazil. Also, due to these factors, the region is inhospitable and historically hostile to human habitation, making it difficult for large urban concentrations and the development of agriculture. This fact has consumed vast resources from the Brazilian state, which over the last century and a half has been obsessed with populating the region. As for the south, the Cerrado is a region that, for centuries, was also hostile to large urban concentrations and agrarian development. But thanks to the development of a series of technologies from the second half of the 20th century, such as genetic engineering, for example, they managed to transform the region into a major global agricultural producer. The Brazilian plateau stretches from Ceará in the north to the northern part of Rio Grande do Sul. In some areas, like the Santos Coast in the state of São Paulo, the view of the sea makes it look like a big green wall. This gave rise to legends among the first Portuguese navigators who explored the region, that it was a wall built by giants. Because of this, the absolute vast majority of the Brazilian population, even today, is concentrated in the coastal region, where its main large cities developed. On the negative side, because this region along the coast is extremely rugged, this was a natural obstacle for centuries, preventing the inland region of the country from being colonized. On the positive side, this has shielded and discouraged the region from possible attacks by external maritime forces. An example of the difficulty this natural barrier imposed on the colonizers can be seen in the fact that, for about 200 years, the innermost settlement in the region was the village of São Paulo de Piratininga, where the city of São Paulo is now located, just 70 kilometers from the coast. The Brazilian geopolitical core is consolidated over the triangle formed by the cities of Belo Horizonte, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo. However, since the 2000s, Brazil's geoeconomic gravity has gradually been shifting in relation to the geopolitical core, moving away from Rio de Janeiro but extending toward the north of Paraná, Mato Grosso do Sul, the south of Goiás, and the south of Mato Grosso. This phenomenon occurs in particular for two reasons. The first is thanks to the enormous economic boom in agribusiness toward the Central West, driven by the export of proteins to Asian markets, especially to China. And the second is due to the migration of heavy industries to the interior, caused by high costs and lack of space in the big cities. Historically, the gravitational structure of Brazilian geopolitics, in administrative terms, has three levels of integration with the central authorities. The first, called the zone integrated with the central authority, corresponds to the entire region to the north. The second is the state of São Paulo itself, which would have its own geopolitical gravity, being a rebellious region in opposition to the central authorities, and the last region, the south, which would have a separatist and autonomous sentiment, precisely because São Paulo physically blocks the influences coming from the north. In this sense, these three zones would represent different levels of integration and cooperation with the central authorities. This is something inherited from Portuguese administration up to the present day with the federal government. From a geographical perspective, Brazil's position and territorial shape have provided three favorable aspects to the country. First, starting from the northeastern promontory, Brazil has been an important bridge connecting the South American triangle to the southwest of Europe and West Africa. By projecting Brazil over the South Atlantic, directly connecting the Brazilian Ocean current with the Canary Islands current, Brazil was then in an advantageous position facing the mouth of the North Atlantic, which for almost 500 years had been the main economic center of gravity in the world. A recently changed fact. Secondly, by controlling Brazil, it imposes its advantage over the Amazon region on the Andean countries. And thirdly, to the south, Argentina, its rival state, has the advantage of being at the mouth of the Rio de la Plata basin, which it held for centuries. The main maritime bridge connecting the interior of the South American continent was nullified by Brazil's absolute control over the Pantanal and over the Paraná and Paraguay rivers. This fact gave Brazilians virtual hegemony over the region. This situation was even more pronounced with the countries of Uruguay and Paraguay, which in the past served as buffers against Argentina and currently had their markets extremely linked to the Brazilian market. The strategic perception of Imperial Brazil to position the country as one of the main global players, projecting it towards the Atlantic, mainly from its capital Rio de Janeiro, and consolidating strategic areas in the internal border region. This change permanently disrupts Brazil's geopolitical gravity, shifting it from a nation with external and coastal projection to an introverted and inland country, regrouping the country's resources and its political energy toward the interior in an artificial way, only to be redistributed later. Thus, the inauguration of Brasilia literally makes any Brazilian ambition for external projection more difficult, turning the country into a nation focused on itself and with a relatively isolationist geopolitical mindset. Looking ahead, Brazil faces few regional external challenges, and its geography, which was the main challenge for most of its history, is no longer a major problem today. However, while its geography is no longer its main challenge, human inefficiency is now replaced by a high aging rate. Chaos in public security, slow justice and impunity, low educational qualifications, and lack of adequate infrastructure. These are consequences of more than a century of incapable and unstrategic leadership, combined with a population with a short-term mindset. These are problems that have been accumulating to increasingly intolerable levels and that pose enormous challenges for the country's future, especially from the second half of the 21st century onwards. Thank you all, I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share the video with everyone you know to help the channel grow. That way, I can keep bringing you genuine geopolitics content. Hugs, see you next time.